harassment and appearances in the court. So of course, I'm just sharing this morning. So what I will do, I will invite Mr. Ronald Charles, who is the lead attorney on this matter, and he'll be followed by Paula Celestine, who is a patriot, who was arrested. So Mr. Charles' perspective on the legal aspect of it, and Paula Celestine will give the experience of the patriots who were arrested. So, Mr. Charles.
Good morning to the head table, and of course, good morning to the media, good morning listeners of the various media houses, Dominicans by and large. Let me first of all thank God for being here. Thank you, Mr. Luki, for a wonderful prayer. I will start by saying, firstly, I want to highlight not just me being part of the legal team, but I also want to make mention of Mr. Joshua Francis, who is also assistant, couldn't be here today. Mr. Jeffrey Leighton, who is dealing with the judicial review aspect of the matter. Of course, we want to not forget Mr. Gildon Richards, who is also representing two of the protesters. And we have other lawyers who are lending a hand from time to time. And I want to say thank you to them. So it's not solely Ronald Charles, so that the record speaks to that. As we all know, that on the March 19, 2025, a number of persons were arrested by just exhibiting their constitutional rights. That is the right to protest, the right to stand up to anything within your nation, within the Dominican context that you believe that has been infringed on, and that is your constitutional right. I like how the Sons put it, the freedom fighters, in their edition of Tuesday, December 16, 2025. A number of persons were arrested, and it's important that their names be called today. Albert Timothy, Alvin James, Bernard Monroe, Daniel Lugie, Christine Piper, David Williams, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, Dwight Simi Defoe, Eddie John Baptist, Felix Moses Prosper, Hector John, Imran Joseph, Lovena, better known as Blue Edwards, John Baptist Charles, Johnson Boston, Jacob Duran, Mason Rowe, Mervyn John Baptist, Michael Wright, Paula Celeste, Rosie Felix, Samuel Duran, Selwyn Powell, and of course, Celestine Michelle, Clementina Michelle, sorry, and yours truly, Ronald Charles, being arrested. According to the police, the charges were as follows. For all the persons that you heard, that on March 19, 2025, at Roseau, in the parish of St. George, in the district aforesaid, did unlawfully, tumultuously, assembling together to the disturbance of the public, contrary to section 4:1002 of the Riot Act of the Consolidated Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica. These were the charges that were brought before the court. Ladies and gentlemen, because of time, because we have a very tight course, I want to thank Mr. Later for leading the team for the judicial review part of it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, and I know Paula will be highlighting this, a number of persons were arrested, taken to a cell. We all know the conditions of the cell at the police station. Notwithstanding that, been brought to court. On several occasions, matters have to be adjourned for one reason or the other. They're going through a lot of suffering as it relates to that. But just to have the opportunity to exhibit their constitutional right. As we speak, again, just recently, when the team of 12 went to court, it was again adjourned to another date. We are therefore asking the authorities, you know better than we do that the charges against these 25 people is not right. It's not right in all aspects of it. Not only that it infringes on our constitutional rights, but it's also affecting a lot of families. I will make mention of Mr. Bernard Monroe, who spent over 105 hours in the cell, diabetic, and has been going through quite a number of challenges, as I will put it. I want to thank everybody who supported the movement, and that is to say, those who have made the contributions from the diaspora. Thank you, and the local Dominicans who have contributed, expressed their support to all the different families and making the necessary contribution towards this event. This is a serious infringement on our democracy. So, while we wait, and I know I have about, give me my time, I'm sticking to my time. While we wait, and I know we will get a little bit more from Ms. Porter, while we wait for the right thing to be done, today, I want the public and I want the authorities and all those who know better to discontinue this matter against the 25 protesters. This is the right thing to do at this stage. And then let democracy reign. People of Dominica deserve a right to demonstrate and deserve a right to speak up things that are affecting them. You will hear from the different representatives from the different political parties the whole issue of photos registration, confirmation, etc. I'm not going to dive into this. But your fundamental right is the right to vote. This is one of the strongest rights any individual can have. And when you have this, it is important for nation building. It is important for us as a people to see transparency, to see this country grow in a way that our brothers and sisters and the next generation will be proud of. The battle in the court continues. Again, I want to thank the protesters. I call them the 25 horsemen and women of this country. Amen. Thank you so much for standing up for justice. We will be free at last. The law will speak. Amen. And you will be free. Dominica will see a place moving better in a better direction. I do this, and as I stand as an attorney, it disappoints me to have to be dealing with such issues. I'll say one thing before I leave. I also am a victim of this. I was arrested. Yes. I was arrested while assisting persons who were being arrested. So me as a professional and me having the right to serve in my capacity as an attorney and being then embarrassed about doing this is shameful. I recall when the police officers came to my office. There were about 10 of them outside, 15 inside, some at the back window, all over the place. You can't come from Charles will not run because I didn't do anything. And when they said to me that, yes, we come for you, it was a moment that I never anticipated. It is something that I will never forget. Because though you work in a capacity as a professional, in the capacity that representing people. It's very, very different when they tell you under arrest.
You want to anybody?
You're feeling like all the hard work at law school don't even work. Then I was brought to the police station. I must admit that I was treated in a way that was, reasonable. But the embarrassment never moved away from me. Thank you for the opportunity. Continue supporting Dominica. Continue to fight for your rights. Continue to be a people of hope. Dominica deserves better. Dominica deserves law-abiding citizens, of which we know we have never broken the law. Thank you for the opportunity, and may God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning to the head table. Good morning to the media. On March 19, 2025, I took objection to the electoral bill that was debated in Parliament for exercising my right to protest against a government that was determined to use electoral legislation to exercising my right to protest against a government that was determined to use the electoral legislation to perpetuate the hold of power to manipulate the electoral system. 25 Dominican citizens were arrested under the Colonial Riot Act that was established to control slaves, our African forefathers. The government of Dominica has spent thousands of dollars to hire Trinidadian lawyers to prosecute the case for 1 year. We have dragged before the magistrate court only to have the case postponed. We still do not have electoral reform. The confirmation process is in chaos. It takes longer to confirm an existing registered voter than to get a passport. The voters' registration of new voters was suspended for almost 1 year, and we still do not have the process that we've been fighting for. I am calling on the Roosevelt Carey government to stop this morning as a citizen of the Commonwealth of Dominica. On the 25th of March 2025, when I was arrested at my workplace, which is called the Dame Mary Eugenia Charles Bolivar. I am a taxi operator. I spent 3 days in police custody. I was not treated in the best of way, but being in a prison cell for the first time for 3 days, it was not easy. I gave courage to many of the brothers and sisters that were in there. I was not broken down at that time. Sorry for being a little bit.
Yeah.
I was not broken down at that time, but I felt sad when one of my sisters, Clementina, joined me at the cells. She came to visit me and she was arrested. At that time, I started feeling broken down. But when persons like Bosso, Moses, who came with his Bible, I woke up every morning at 5 to take my shower before the officers would come to work because the place was inhumane. I had to move from the cell to the outer part of what they call a kitchen to take my shower on the outside, an exposed area. And at that time, it was not easy. But waking up in the morning at 5, I got the courage to pray because Brother Moses had a Bible. And every morning I woke up, I would call on the other brothers in the cell and I would say, it's time for prayer. made a public statement saying that my experience in there had me to get stronger. So anyone that is to be arrested and want to go into the cell, I can do it for you. I want to say to the government of Dominica and to those in power, you all need to discontinue this matter. We have gone to court on several occasions and only to find out that the matter is being adjourned. There are many persons who are suffering because they do not have the finance, even when they have to come to the city, to be able to go to court. So for today, I'm saying to the government of Dominica, please, this is an old act. This is when slavery was being done in many countries, and today we are no longer slaves. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula, and you can well imagine the emotion of this matter, because I was in the cell for my first time, and there's a song from Bob Marley, whose song was my pillow, but my shoe was my pillow at night. And when I got the courage there from the other brothers, like Dan and others who I met in the cell, and so forth. Now the political parties and civil society organization has been assisting, and in fact ERC is made up of political parties, civil society organization, religious organization, and we've had the support and the encouragement from the political parties. I want to apologize for Carlos Charles, who's unable to be there for the talk, and Jasper Francis from the UPP, who is unable to attend this morning because he's in court. But of course, Dr. Jura will say a few words on behalf of the UPP, followed by Bernard Ito, and then the Freedom Party, and then Dr. Thompson Fontaine from the UWP. So, Dr. Jura.
All right, folks, let me say a special good morning to everyone in attendance. Protocol already established, so in the interest of time, I will just delve right into the points for this morning. I stand here this morning as the Public Relations Officer of the United Progressive Party in Dominica, and so anything and everything that I say today will be representing the party indeed. First and foremost, the United Progressive Party stands in complete solidarity with all the 25 persons who were mentioned before by Mr. Ronald Charles of the arrest of these people, illegal arrest, we must add, of these Dominicans, patriotic Dominicans. And it is in that vein that the United Progressive Party, through yours truly's voice, is calling on the powers that be at this time, the police in particular, to stop this political witch hunt and mischief of Dominicans and to cease and desist that case immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, I also want to say on behalf of the Progressive Party, campaign finance reform is a very dear aspect to us in Dominica in terms of making or enabling our electoral process to be fairer and freer in Dominica. And so it's on that note, the United Progressive Party, in collaboration with the ERC and others in Dominica who are conscious about the political affairs in Dominica, says that campaign finance reform must be, it's imperative, must be added to the process by which we elect leaders to serve us in this country. Amen. And so although we did not have the re-registration that we called for, we have what we call the confirmation process. which I must say here to all Dominicans, urge all Dominicans to be part of that process, because that process is one of the ways by which your names can remain on that list, and as well ensure that the Labour Party government is no more when the next election is called. Be part of that process. But we are saying here this morning that campaign finance reform must be part of that process in moving forward. So, be it with this regime, be it without this regime, whenever that time comes, the ERC, the UPP, and other political parties will ensure that future elections in Dominica, at least the monies that are generated in those elections, will be properly accounted for.
Amen. Amen.
In moving on, folks, 25 years of anything is a lot of years. And 25 years of this government in Dominica has been too much. We say has been too much because of the mal-governance that this government has brought to the table and continue to bring to the table in Dominica, where a number of Dominicans who were once lively people, especially where the economy is concerned, today we are struggling, we are groveling because of the type of malgovernance that this government has done to the country on a whole. So we are saying, in no uncertain terms, that the economy of Dominica is at its lowest ever. And if Dr. Thompson Fontaine, the United Workers' Party, the Freedom Party, the United Progressive Party, the TUD Party, and others who may be interested, we will ensure that our economy will be once again that buoyant economy that all of us could be prosperous in this country once more. Folks, I know my time is short, but in conclusion, I just want to ask us, all of us here, and those on the live feed, tonight, the engagement on the ground continues with Dominicans by and large. And so the United Progressive Party will be in Warner this evening, opposite the playing field. And so we're inviting all of you to be part and parcel of that public engagement there, where the education, or the re-education as it were, the necessary information to the people of Dominica, the grassroots people of Dominica, will be meted out this evening. So we're asking all of you to show your face in the place this evening at Warner. So the Warner people, we are coming your way. Thanks for your hospitality so far. We are looking to engage you later this evening from 7 p.m. That is the start time. But we're encouraging everyone to be there at least by 6 o'clock to, mingle and mix with the Warner people. And we will be moving on from there. Thank you.
Good morning to the media, the head table, and everyone here, of course, and everyone online and on the radio. Let me just say, first of all, that of course the Freedom Party stands in unity and solidarity with all 25 people who were arrested. That is, we want to make that very clear. As we've all said this morning, we think it's an unjust and a waste of resources to engage in this. And so we stand fully behind those who have been arrested. All right, we have called this press conference today because for several things, of course, reasons. One is, of course, to commemorate the injustice that's been perpetuated against our fellow freedom fighters, but also to address, I think, the larger issue of electoral reform, the larger issue of governance, and the larger issue of what is happening in the confirmation registration process. Because it is increasingly clear that this process, this electoral reform process, is not proceeding in a manner that inspires public confidence administrative competence or constitutional seriousness. And that is the most important point, constitutional seriousness. This government and the relevant authorities have presented electoral reform as this grand achievement of theirs, which it is not. It is really an achievement of ours. We have pushed this government to embrace electoral reform, but they have presented it as their grand achievement. That is the smoke and mirrors they're presenting. But what the country is witnessing now is the reality. Are they doing things in a manner that is improving the integrity of our democratic system? No. What we are saying is not an orderly, credible, well-managed process. What are we saying? Delay, confusion, administrative disarray, and troubling disregard for basic constitutional and institutional obligations. It tells us this government is not really serious about this thing, you know. They are happy to present those things as we are doing something. But when you look at the poor governance of the process, it tells you that they are not really very serious about this. For example, why was it necessary for over a year to remove and to suspend the registration of new voters? Are we saying that with the billions of dollars that have come into this country, and with all this CWO that this government organizes, and with all the big artists that bring in, religious and otherwise, that they can't dedicate a few $1,000s to adequately resource and staff the electoral office to accomplish what should be a straightforward registration process? So what does this tell you about the prioritization of this government? What does it tell you about what they believe is important? Why do we have to believe that they have had manpower constraints to implement a serious constitutional requirement? This is not an option. What kind of nation are we if we cannot take seriously constitutional requirements? What kind of nation are we if organizing another CWO event is more important than ensuring that your constitution has integrity and your constitution is respected? We are not merely dealing with administrative inconvenience. We are dealing with a failure of constitutional governance. And you see that happening all through Dominican society. A real failure of governance. No serious democracy places constitutional obligation on pause because of administrative weakness. And no serious government should be comfortable with this level of institutional dysfunction in a matter as fundamental as elections. It is simply not acceptable. We are either a serious nation or we are not. And at this point in our evolution as a nation, we are not a serious nation. And we need people who are serious about nation building, and serious about governance, and serious about doing the right things. We need serious people right now to rescue and resuscitate our country. But these people are not serious. And it's not simply suspending the constitutional requirement to register new voters. Because under the law, the same law that they passed, requiring voters to confirm and to receive a registration card, we see that process dragging on endlessly. If you look at the people who are confirmed, if you look at the list, it is minimum. There are less than 3,000 or 4,000 people confirmed at this critical juncture, at almost in the middle of March, and the process is supposed to be ending shortly. And we do not yet have anywhere close to the voters list. Not only that, we do not have the confirmation cards issued. Almost no one, in fact I believe no one that has confirmed has received the confirmation card. No. So what kind of unacceptable behavior is this? How seriously are we as a country when we can't register new voters, and those who make the effort, and the great effort and expense to make the effort to confirm, cannot receive a confirmation card? Are we serious as a nation? What sort of government process is this? And let me make this final point as I wrap up. Let us look at this from a different angle. And what makes this situation especially troubling? When citizens protested peacefully for their constitutional right against unfair electoral rules, when ordinary people like us stood up to demand fairness, transparency, and justice, there was no visible sign of manpower shortage then, was there?
No.
There was no administrative paralysis, was there?
No.
The system worked beautifully. Punishing in a punishing manner, but there was swiftness of action. There was resources dedicated. There were scores of police officers sent to the homes of those to be arrested. The government kicked into action. There was no lackluster inefficiency or ineffectiveness then. But when the issue is proper registration of voters, doing the right thing, giving the cards, we are told we are under-resourced, delayed, and struggling. It's not just the particular instance of what happened that is important, you know. This is very illustrative of what is going on in our country as a nation. When this government needs to operate in a manner that ensures its power is consolidated, to ensure that victims are oppressed, it works. But when it is to ensure our democratic process, which can remove it, which is deserving to be removed and will be removed, is to be what was going on. It is inefficient and resource. But let me close by saying this, because I know we are constrained on time. Yes. Because this point is a critical one, let me make it. Despite these failures, despite the confusion, despite the delays, we must not allow the incompetence to discourage us from doing our democratic duty. No. We must not allow administrative disorder to become weaponized against citizen participation. No. Do not let the administrative disorder work. We must not allow frustration to become surrender. Because if, in anger or disappointment, we fail to reconfirm our names, if we stay away, because the process is confusing, if we allow the failures to exhaust our commitment, then we will be handing them exactly what they want. Yes. Do you think that this is accidental? No. This order is a mark of this government for the past 25 years, because in this order they thrive. Amen. Lack of processes, lack of governance, lack of institutional control, they thrive in these conditions. They can do what they wish. Yeah. So let us not let the disorder strategy work. We will be handing them on a platter the very disenfranchisement that the confusion is seeking to create. Amen. And trust me, they are rallying the people, you know. They are gathering the people on buses to go to confirm. Yes. They are undercover assigning people to every district to have to make sure that their voters are confirmed. Yes. But for the rest of us, they create disorder, yes, lack of resources, lack of enthusiasm. They dispirit us, but let us not make that work. Do not give up. Do not be discouraged. Do not be misled. Go out there and make sure your name is properly confirmed. Encourage your family to do the same. Encourage your neighbors to do the same. Yes. Encourage every eligible young voter to get registered. Let us defy them. We have work to do as an opposition. That is our task. Yes. I think that is the most important task, to get our names of our supporters on the list. And if we fail to do that, well, it's a fait accompli. We have lost already. We will lose the next election in April of this year. Next month we will lose it if we do not get our people confirmed on that list. So that is our task, that's our mission, and I encourage every Dominican who is a responsible citizen to do the same thing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning to the assembled press and to all of you who are here. In particular, let me say a very special good morning to the 24 other patriots who were so unceremoniously arrested, those like Paul and others who had to spend time locked up in an unsanitary jail, and all of the personal hardships that had gone with being arrested 1 year ago today. Indeed, we've seen this government continuing to wage war against the people of Dominica. And let me encourage, let me talk directly rather to this government. It is time that you stop waging war against the people of Dominica.
Amen.
The government has waged economic warfare against our people by disenfranchising or destroying the livelihoods of thousands of our farmers. They have taken away manufacturing, businesses have shut down, retailers have gone under, and the people of this country continue to suffer economic disadvantage at the hands of this government.
Amen.
Not satisfied with just waging economic war against the people, they have moved towards political victimization. They have unleashed their police forces against innocent Dominicans, simply standing up for their rights. What we were doing a year ago was simply demanding what is rightfully ours, and that is electoral reform. We were demanding that this government do away with a bloated voters list that exceeds the population of Dominica. We were demanding that this government clean the voters list and stop importing voters to prop themselves up in government. That's what we were doing a year ago.
Amen.
Yet we were arrested, taken to jail, and now, a year later, still being dragged before the courts. It is time to put an end to this war against the people of Dominica. It is time to put an end, Mr. Roosevelt Skerritt, against your political victimization of people who do not support your government. And indeed, the numbers of those persons are growing daily. Persons who have been affected by this mal-governance that we've seen in this country. And let me just say very quickly a word about this electoral reform, something that we have sacrificed for personally. We have seen a gross failure on the part of the Electoral Commission to do the right thing.
Amen.
And this morning we are calling upon the Electoral Commission to do what is right by the people of this country. Get the confirmation process right. Get the registration process right. And above all, ensure that we have a clean voters list that reflects the persons who are eligible to vote in this country. You must get it right.
Amen.
It cannot be, after all the pain, the sacrifice, and the hurt that we have had to go through, that we still have to go through a situation where persons are having difficulty to confirm. Entire villages have been shut out of the process of confirmation. I'm talking about villages like Warner, Mount Prosper, Watson Waven. Whole villages have been locked out of the process of confirmation. And it is high time that the Electoral Commission do what is right. Therefore, this morning, at this time, we're encouraging the Electoral Commission to set up a mobile registration or confirmation processes that will go to where the people are. The onus is on the Electoral Commission to get to the people. It should not be on the people to get to the Electoral Commission. They should deploy their officers to every single village in this country. No village should be excluded. No village should be given preference over another village, because every single Dominican has the right to one vote. Every single vote is equal. And as such, we are urging the Electoral Commission to do what is right and to visit every single community, that we can allow the people with the time that is left, the 9 or so months that is left, to ensure that every single person is able to do the confirmation and to register. Also, the Electoral Commission must rethink the current spate of local government elections that are taking place. Because for an entire year, a number of persons I believe numbering in the hundreds, would not allow to register to vote in this country. And so it cannot be that you're going to run elections here in Roseau, for example, and you're going to disenfranchise scores of young people who will not be able to determine who can be the mayor of this city. And so we have work to do. And then that's where I would like to encourage the Dominican people, those of us who have stood steadfast against this government, to continue to do so. Because after all, the days of this government is numbered. The days are numbered. It is now measured in months, not years, in weeks, not years. And so, let me just encourage you as I close this morning to stand firm, amen, stand resolute, do not be bound by the persecution, by the pain, by the suffering that has been imposed upon you by this government. Our better days are ahead of us. Oh, yes. Freedom from this government will come. Oh, yes. Liberty will come. Amen. And this updated 1897 Act by which they continue to frustrate and unleash the police upon innocent Dominicans will be a thing of the past. Yes. So let me encourage us, especially the patriots who put your lives and your time on the line, to hold firm, stay strong, and let us together believe that better days are ahead for this country. I thank you. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Let me say thank you to Loftus Durand, Bernard Ito, and Dr. Thompson Fontaine. Now we're going to open for you to ask questions, and the table will provide the answers. But this morning we issued a press release, and it was sent to all the media houses, so when you go back to your office, you can find it on your email. And the point that Dr. Fountain made about the Roseau City Council elections, I was speaking to a few young people in Roseau who said they're not on the list. They want to vote. And because the system was suspended and they were shut off from being registered, they are unable to participate in the Roseau City Council election. In fact, I was advised that the Electoral Office is saying that they will use the old list for the Roseau City Council election. And that is 1 year after the law was passed. And I think Bernard wanted to make the point, I think it's Bernard, that in the law that was passed in Parliament last year, 19th March, also made provision for continuous voter registration. So you see, they ignored the Constitution and even the law that they passed and arrested us for, they are not respecting it. So at this point, the floor is open. Any one of you from the media fraternity who have a question, feel free to do so.
Good morning all. My question is to Attorney Charles. What's legal or Kyrie FM? This is Kyrie FM, Vida. Mr. Charles, what legal or policy framework is being put in place to sort of advocate for the people who were arrested last year, and has the ERC met with the government or the police commissioner to discuss the whole issue and see how that situation can be prevented in the future? And finally, the final question is, what is the psychological or economic impact this has had on the protesters? How are they doing? What have you been hearing from them?
All right, thank you for this question. Of course, let me start with the second question first. I can tell you from my own experience and working with the team, and I think Paula alluded to it, a lot of the protesters are working class people,
and they have to be paid their bus fees from La Plaine, for example, leaving a day's work, and then having to come to deal with a matter that is not being dealt with, and 97% of the time it's just being adjourned. The prosecution doesn't seem to be ready, notwithstanding, that I am sure that the attorneys know that this matter and the charges before the court has some constitutional challenges, and I'm sure that they're aware that I'm almost certain that when we go through the process of the judicial review, I will not be surprised that the court will be on our side to say that this act, so old, is unconstitutional and has infringed on the rights of the people of Dominica and most of the Christians. Having said that, I think I have to now go back to your first question. And you asked a very interesting question. And I think sometimes what we need to do is to understand that the first thing that was supposed to be done is to let the people of Dominica demonstrate when they have to demonstrate on issues that affect their lives. When you come with your barricades and then you're just arresting people and using this act as a shield to do so, it cannot be fair. So we have to start in a starting point. And I would suggest strongly that the police and the commissioner of police and all those who know better must allow people to speak. I'm sure that this would not have gotten to this stage if the protesters were just given an opportunity to just protest, to just say that they were not in line with what was going on in Parliament. And the other thing is, all the political heads, all the political party persons have suggested, have made comments, have had discussions on the matter. Up to now, we haven't had, when we had the discussion at the UE Open Campus, you see the engagement started, where Mr. Levi Peter was present, Mr. Jeffrey was there, and the dialogue has started. The question is, and that's the same question I asked. I asked him on the day in question, what's next? So he now being engaged and understanding that this law needs some review, should be the one that now saying, having regard for what has been going on, we have a draft. Because it's Parliament. It's they who have to pass it. It's they who have to give us that, go to Parliament and pass and make amendments where they have to. So I agree with you, the engagement will continue. And we'll continue to engage government to ensure that this never happened again in the history of the country.
Any other question from the media? My question is more about the electoral reform. A lot of criticism out there, really opposition, really, let me ask you a question again just for emphasis. A lot of criticism out there by the public, of course, that the opposition, meaning the group that's here, is not doing enough to get people to register. How active are you guys on the ground to get people to register to vote? Because it's as you just said, it's a critical process. I mean, if you don't register, then you will not be able to vote. So, Mr. Thompson, and maybe how are you doing on the ground in terms of getting people to register to vote? Next question.
All right, I will tell you, we have been relentless in getting our persons organized, but we have had issues, obviously. I mentioned earlier about the villages where people, you don't have confirmation centers. And we are having a difficulty in those areas. Just last week, I was in the village of Warner, and the people were telling me that they would not go to Mao to get confirmed. Okay? So we are up against that. We are up against a situation where in several of those areas where we do not have confirmation centers, people are finding it very difficult to leave where they are, pay transportation, and find their way. Not only that, they have to find somebody to accompany them to go to those centers. So here we have. So we do have those issues with the access to the confirmation centers. Beyond that, where we have our constituency associations, we have directed them to reach out personally to people. We have put them in the list of voters, and they are now going through those lists to ensure that every single person on that list is in fact confirmed or registered. So that is ongoing. Those efforts are there, but we need the cooperation at this time of the Electoral Commission to make it easier. There is still too much of a great burden placed on individuals to confirm, and that needs to be ironed out.
Another question, Dr. Thompson. I meet a lot of young people on the ground, and what I'm hearing, which is very concerning to me, we hear young people saying, we want to register, but we need something. How are you guys going to deal with that challenge? Because the Labour Party apparently may be giving something, I don't know what it is, but they say we need something to register to vote. I mean, we're speaking about your own democratic right, but you've been offered things under the table, if you will, to register.
But this is a very sad commentary on where we are in Dominica. And earlier I talked about this government waging economic warfare against the people. That's an exact example of that. Where our young people are feel so disadvantaged. They are not working. They have difficulty finding jobs, so that now they have to look for some kind of handout. Even to put politicians and the government under pressure to say, I need something to vote. That should not be. The right to vote is a right that we inherited, that our forebears fought hard for, some gave their lives for, and there should not be a price on it. The fact that people have to be at that stage, at this point in Dominica, reflects very, very poorly on this government. What we can say to the young people of Dominica is that they need to confirm, they need to register, and get rid of this government. In getting rid of this government, they will allow themselves an opportunity to work. Because that's what we can offer. We are not able to offer at this time. We are not going to be offering individuals money to confirm or to register. I don't think that's the right thing to do. And we don't have the resources. If we had the resources, that would not be the right use of the resources. What we will continue to do is to encourage the young people to go out there, confirm, register, get rid of this government, and then we can transition this country where it needs to be. A place where we can provide opportunity and work for our young people.
Yeah, and Matt, let me just add a little to that. I absolutely support what Thompson is saying. And let's make it categorically clear. The Freedom Party will not support, will never support giving bribes, handouts to citizens to do the right thing.
Amen.
Because what we have going on in our country is not just a failure of elections, We have a failure of principle. We have a failure of ethics. We have a failure of national pride. We have a failure of national consciousness. So to give money to people to vote or to get registered is to enable and to further erode that sense of national consciousness, national ethic, national character, and we will never do that. It is wrong to do that. It is one of the fundamental things that has led our country to where it is today, an erosion of our national character, and it is wrong, and we will not do that. What we will say to young people is, if you want a future, if you want something to take that malaise of desperation and hopelessness away from you, then you need to vote for serious people who believe in progress for progress' sake and not for their own sake. That is the motivation for you to go out there and do the right thing.
Amen.
And let's be honest, there is a psychological cloud in this country where people do not care anymore, and I'm not blaming them. I am saying it's a real thing we as the opposition have to address, because many young people tell me, Bernard, why do I register? I'm not interested in that. That's not doing nothing for me. I don't care anymore. I don't see how the situation can change. Even people who are on the vote list, I'm just not interested in that. I have lost hope. And so this hopelessness that has gripped our country is one of the most serious psychological issues that we as an opposition have to face. And it's not merely going out and talk to people, which is very important, and we need to do that, and we are all doing that. But it's also, we have to craft a meaningful message and a way to reach and to reignite the fire of democracy in the minds of Dominicans. Because that fire has been so extinguished that we have work to do to make people excited once again to go to the polls to vote and to put serious people in office.
Yes. So we want to thank you for coming, but I will say, when you corrupt the process, that's what happened. In fact, a guy said to me, "Boss, why are you wasting your time? You have done so much for Dominica. Join Scarrick to make your money." He said, "I'm making my money. When they have a rally, I put my red shirt and I go to the rally. But I don't care about Scarrick or the government. I care about my money." That's what the system has been corrupt, and so on. And one thing I want to say quickly though, we try our utmost to cooperate with the police. Somebody asked a question, I feel still with the police. And when there's an event, we write to the police. When you write to the police and ask for public permission or involvement, first thing we hear, before they even reply to us, the chief of police and the Minister of National Security comes on the radio and say we're planning to burn down this and burn down that.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine that? They create that fear. And then when the police now invite us to a meeting now, they show us all kind of things people say, take your country back and point it on us, which is not ours. And the other thing they do, they give us permission the day of the event. Like we had planned an event, and when we still not responding, we postpone the event to another date. Did not respond, we cancel to something different. That was to deliver our suggestion to the Prime Minister, the President of Dominica, and the Chairman of the Electoral Commission. So we scaled down to 6 of us, for 3 to go to every office. And that's the day we got the permission for that event, which we plan to do a match. We got the permission that day at 12:30 minutes to 1, we got that permission, the same day. So really the cooperation with the police are not there. And therefore it leaves you in limbo. So the institutions of government that was placed to protect democracy are in trouble, and we want them to understand, to move out of this crumbleness and allow themselves to work as institutions to ensure that our democracy is safeguarded. So again, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you for coming. Those of you listening via Q and Kyrie Radio, we want to thank you. And those of you who view on Kyrie, MO, and Lofty social media platform, we want to thank you and say to you that we'll continue to dialogue with you, the public, through this medium and on the ground. So let's stay strong and united, because at the end of the day, Dominica belongs to Dominicans. Parties come, parties go, but the country must remain, and we must work together for the good of the country and our citizens. Thank you so much. God bless you all, and have a wonderful rest of the Thursday, and enjoy the weekend as it comes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining our live coverage of the Electoral Reform Coalition press conference. Do have a blessed day.